Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place where we plunge into, well, a whole stack of sources to give you a really comprehensive snapshot of complex topics.
That's right.
And today, we're navigating the really intricate landscape of India's current standing. We're looking at trade, technology, diplomacy, and even its vibrant cultural dynamics.
Quite a mix.
Yeah, our mission really is to distill the most critical nuggets of knowledge from today's top headlines. We want to help you quickly grasp the multifaceted threads shaping India's domestic and international narratives.
And what's truly compelling about today's material, I think, is how these seemingly disparate headlines, you've got high-stakes economic talks, critical human rights reports, cutting-edge space ambitions, even blockbuster cinema.
Right.
They all sort of weave together. They form this broader narrative of India's evolving position in the world.
Okay.
So we're not just going to tell you what is happening, but really dig into why it matters and, crucially, how these developments might shape the future, not just for India, but, globally.
And just to be clear, all of this is drawn directly from a series of top headlines coming out of India for August 13th, 2025. We've curated them specifically to give you that shortcut to being well-informed.
Yeah, hopefully offering those aha moments, but, without the usual information overload.
Exactly. So let's jump right in. First up, the high-stakes world of economic diplomacy, trade tensions. We're focusing particularly on the crucial U.S.-India relationship.
Always a big one.
It is. Our first headline brings us comments from the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He was on Fox Business Network's Kudlow recently.
Okay.
And he described India's stance in ongoing trade negotiations as recalcitrant. Now, that's a pretty strong word, isn't it, coming from a top U.S. official. What does recalcitrant truly signify here in this context?
Yeah, recalcitrant is definitely loaded language in diplomacy. When a U.S. Treasury Secretary uses a term like that publicly, it's a deliberate signal. It suggests frustration, indicates a clear reluctance or maybe inflexibility on India's part in these really critical trade discussions.
So digging their heels in.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Now, the source itself doesn't spell out the exact points of contention, but if you look at past negotiations between the U.S. and India, they've consistently run into friction over, well, perennial issues.
Like what, typically?
Things like India's high tariffs on a range of U.S. goods, think agricultural products, manufactured items. Intellectual property rights enforcement is another big one. U.S. companies often feel their patents aren't adequately protected.
Okay.
And then there's market access for American businesses, particularly in sectors where India still maintains significant sort of non-tariff barriers or even state monopolies.
Right. And India's perspective.
Well, India often argues these measures are necessary, to protect nascent domestic industries, promote self-reliance, and ensure equitable development. It often reflects a more protectionist stance than the U.S. would prefer.
So this public statement, this recalcitrant comment, it's strategic.
Absolutely. It's a strategic move. It's meant to apply pressure, perhaps push India towards making greater concessions in these talks.
And it's interesting because it's not just India mentioned. Bessent also noted that negotiations with Switzerland are incomplete.
Sure.
But the focus on India, it really stands out, especially since he also expressed some optimism, saying the Trump administration could finalize these deals by the end of October.
Yeah.
He called that timeline aspirational, but still achievable. Why is there such an aspirational deadline right now? What's driving this urgency from the U.S. side, do you think?
Well, that expiration deadline, it really reflects immense pressure on the U.S. administration to secure tangible bilateral trade deals.
Yeah.
In a global landscape that's constantly shifting, alliances changing, economic competition, especially with China, escalating.
Right.
Locking in these agreements before a self-imposed end of October deadline allows the administration to, well, showcase concrete achievements in its trade policy.
So political points, maybe.
Certainly part of it. It's a strategic move to solidify economic partnerships and advance its agenda of forging these bilateral pacts rather than relying on broader multilateral agreements. It fits right into the administration's America First approach to trade, prioritizing direct deals they believe offer more favorable terms for U.S. interests.
Okay.
And yeah, the urgency is also tied to the domestic political calendar. They want to demonstrate progress on trade promises to key constituencies before, well, things heat up further.
It's interesting timing, too, because this comes right after recent U.S.-China trade talks in Stockholm.
Yes, the relevant context.
Plus, we also heard that related statement from former President Trump assuring no U.S. tariffs on gold imports. That seemed designed to calm markets, signal openness.
A bit of reassurance there.
So putting all this together, Bessent's tone, balancing that critique with confidence, What does it suggest about the broader U.S. trade policy and maybe the future trajectory of the U.S.-India relationship?
Well, stepping back to see that broader picture, Besant's tone, that mix of critique and confidence, it's a classic diplomatic tactic, really.
How so?
It aims to publicly highlight the existing sticking points, right, to generate pressure on India. But at the same time, projecting an air of confidence in an eventual resolution helps maintain the momentum of the negotiations. It keeps the door open.
Okay.
And this approach, it prompts a critical question.
Yeah.
What real leverage does each side actually possess in these high-stakes discussions?
Good question. What is the leverage?
For the U.S., its formidable leverage lies in access to its massive consumer market, its technological prowess, its significant influence on global financial systems. That's powerful.
And for India?
For India, its rapidly expanding consumer base is huge. Its strategically vital location in the Indo-Pacific, its burgeoning economy, these present considerable counter-leverage.
Was a real negotiation.
Oh, absolutely. The outcome will ultimately hinge on the compromises both nations are willing to make, especially around those historical friction points, tariffs, IP, market access.
And the context of other talks matters too. China, Switzerland.
Definitely. The fact that the U.S. is concurrently engaged with Switzerland, recently talked with China, coupled with Trump's statement on gold imports, it underscores a broader U.S. trade policy designed to diversify and strengthen its economic ties globally.
And India fits into that how?
India is clearly identified as a high-priority partner within this framework, but, and this is key, it's also a partner that the U.S. is prepared to push, even publicly, to achieve its objectives.
So the recalcitrant comment signals they're not backing down.
Exactly. The persistent challenges Besant's comments highlight suggest that despite India's strategic importance, say as a counterweight to China, the economic disagreements are substantial enough to warrant this kind of public, firm communication. It signifies the U.S. isn't shying away from calling out perceived resistance, even from a key strategic partner.
It also seems to imply maybe that the U.S. sees India's stance as tactical, perhaps, not necessarily an insurmountable obstacle.
That's a very plausible reading. The aspirational deadline, while ambitious, implies a strong desire from the U.S. side to secure these deals. It signals that a resolution, though potentially complex, is still seen as achievable. They want the deal.
Okay, let's pivot now. From trade battles to the often more complex realm of human rights where global diplomacy really faces some tough challenges.
Indeed.
Our next headline takes us to the U.S. State Department's 2025 Human Rights Report. And this report offers some sharp criticism. It states that India took minimal credible steps, and Pakistan rarely took credible steps to address abuses and hold officials accountable.
Right. Strong wording there, too.
But here's what's particularly insightful, I think. The report itself was significantly shortened under the Trump administration. The source says this reflects a broader softening of criticism towards strategic partners.
Oh.
What does that reveal about the, maybe, strategic recalibration of U.S. human rights advocacy? Is it changing?
That detail, the shortening of the report, the softened language, it does signal a fascinating recalibration, doesn't it?
Yeah.
On one hand, the report is openly criticizing both India and Pakistan for their human rights records. So it maintains a public stance on these issues.
Right.
But on the other hand, the deliberate decision to condense the report, to temper its criticism towards these strategic allies, it reveals a pragmatic prioritization, it seems, of diplomatic and economic interests over, perhaps, comprehensive accountability.
A balancing act.
A very delicate balancing act.
Yeah.
Look, the U.S. perceives India as an indispensable ally in its strategy to counter China's growing influence, right? Despite their trade frictions, remember the 50% tariffs on Indian goods in the past.
Yeah.
Simultaneously, Pakistan, though a non-NATO ally, recently concluded a significant trade agreement with the U.S. So this complex interplay clearly illustrates how human rights concerns are now being weighed against these broader geopolitical and strategic imperatives.
So a different threshold for allies.
It showcases a shifting tolerance threshold, perhaps, for certain human rights issues among critical allies. It's a dynamic we haven't seen in quite this form, maybe since the Cold War era. It's quite interesting.
And the report itself, it cites a host of serious concerns for India. Things like discrimination against minorities, hate speech, controversial laws like the Religion-Based Citizenship Act, anti-conversion legislation,
Hmm.
also the 2019 revocation of Kashmir's special status, and even the demolition of Muslim-owned properties. Now, Prime Minister Modi denies discrimination, often citing inclusive welfare initiatives.
Right, that's the official stance.
But human rights organizations like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, they've consistently condemned these policies. They urge stronger action.
That's the counter-narrative, yes.
And for Pakistan, the report highlights government failures to protect minorities, suppress dissent. It directly references the highly scrutinized 2024 elections and the UN declaring Imran Khan's detention a violation of international law.
Yeah, the Imran Khan situation is prominent.
What's also telling, perhaps, is that neither country's embassy responded to the report, according to the source.
That silence is interesting, isn't it? Combined with Prime Minister Modi's categorical denial of discrimination in India's case, it really underscores the deep sensitivities and, frankly, divisions surrounding these issues, both domestically and internationally.
Can you unpack some of those specific Indian issues a bit more? The Citizenship Act, for instance.
Sure, the Religion-Based Citizenship Act, the CAA, is highly controversial because critics argue it explicitly discriminates against Muslims. It offers a pathway to citizenship for non-Muslim minorities fleeing persecution from neighboring countries, but excludes Muslims.
Okay. And anti-conversion laws.
Those are often criticized for infringing on religious freedom. Opponents claim they're sometimes used to target minority communities, especially Christians and Muslims, under the guise of preventing forced conversions.
And Kashmir, still a factor.
Absolutely. The revocation of Article 370, Kashmir's special status, back in 2019, remains deeply contentious. It led to a significant crackdown on civil liberties, communications blackouts. It's still a major point of concern for rights groups.
And in Pakistan, the Imran Khan issue looms large.
Yes, his continued imprisonment, despite the UN finding his detention, violated international law, citing concerns over due process and suppression of political dissent, adds another significant layer to Pakistan's human rights record cited in the report.
So specific systemic issues highlighted in both cases.
Right. And stepping back, this all plays out against the backdrop of former President Trump's claim back in May that he brokered a ceasefire between India and Pakistan.
Which India pushed back on, right?
Exactly. India quickly countered, asserting that any resolution must be strictly bilateral, without external interference. This further complicates the U.S. position, doesn't it? It reveals how deeply intertwined human rights, security, and diplomatic relations are in this incredibly volatile region.
So the U.S. is clearly walking this tightrope, balancing strategic partnerships with upholding its commitment to human rights. What does this delicate balancing act mean for global diplomacy moving forward?
Well, this situation really raises an important question for international relations generally. How do countries like India and Pakistan navigate these persistent international critiques while, at the same time, vigorously pursuing their own geopolitical objectives?
Yeah.
What truly stands out here, I think, is the ongoing tension between a nation's assertion of its sovereignty, its right to manage its internal affairs, and the evolving international norms around human rights.
So sovereignty versus global norms.
Pretty much. The U.S. is attempting to maintain its moral standing, promote its values, but without alienating crucial allies in a strategically vital region, especially given its broader strategy towards China.
And for India and Pakistan.
For them, it means balancing domestic political priorities and strong assertions of internal sovereignty with the, significant reputational and diplomatic pressures that come with critical reports like this.
And their silence. The non-response.
Their decision not to respond could be interpreted in a few ways. Maybe a dismissal of the report's credibility, or perhaps a strategic silence to avoid getting further entangled in what they might see as the U.S.'s internal policy debates regarding human rights priorities.
So these reports don't necessarily trigger immediate change.
Often, they become part of a larger, ongoing diplomatic conversation rather than a definitive judgment that leads to immediate, drastic policy shifts, which I think speaks volumes about the complexities of global diplomacy in our current multipolar world.
Okay, let's shift gears again. We're moving to a different kind of diplomatic development, one that signals maybe a cautious rapprochement in Asia.
Right.
Our next headline indicates a potentially significant thaw in India-China relations. Apparently, India and China are in advanced talks to resume direct flights and reopen selected border trade posts.
Interesting.
Now, this comes after that 4-year military standoff along the line of actual control, the LAC. Given how severe past tensions were, especially the Galwan clash, This feels like a genuinely significant development, doesn't it?
It really does. What truly stands out here is the pragmatic approach being adopted by both nations to try and stabilize their often very fraught relationship.
Pragmatic, how?
Well, this move comes after years of really heightened tension, particularly following that tragic 2020 Galwan Valley clash. The resumption of direct flights, reopening trade posts, both were suspended right after that incident. So bringing them back are tangible, measurable signs of de-escalation.
Okay.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it suggests a mutual underlying interest in fostering cooperation, despite the lingering, very complex challenges that certainly persist between them.
So a shared interest in dialing down the tension.
I think so. Both India and China understand that continued hostility doesn't just undermine regional stability, it also poses a significant impediment to their own economic growth ambitions. It feels like a recognition that neither side really benefits from prolonged confrontation.
And this isn't happening in a vacuum, right? These developments are happening just before Prime Minister Modi's anticipated visit to China for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the SCO summit, on August 31st.
Right, the timing is key.
This will be his first trip to China since that very difficult 2020 border incident. So what's the deeper significance of these incremental steps, as the source calls them, in rebuilding trust, especially ahead of such a high-profile visit?
The significance of these incremental steps really can't be overstated, especially when you consider how deeply trust was eroded after the military standoff. That meeting back in October 2024 between PM Modi and President Xi Jinping in Kazan, Russia, where they reached an understanding to end the LAC standoff, that was a pivotal turning point. Now, by moving forward to restore practical connectivity, direct flights, border trade, they are carefully building on that foundational understanding. It seems like a deliberate, cautious process.
Testing the waters.
Exactly. Testing the waters, rebuilding confidence brick by brick, rather than attempting some grand, sweeping gesture that might be difficult to sustain. And look at the progress on easing Chinese restrictions on fertilizer exports to India.
Right. The External Affairs Minister raised that.
Yes, S. Jaishankar specifically raised it with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in Beijing. That's another concrete example of addressing practical economic concerns to pave the way for broader, more substantive cooperation. These aren't just symbolic gestures. They're aimed at creating real, tangible benefits that can foster a more conducive environment for diplomatic engagement.
And it's quite telling, isn't it, that they're apparently even considering resuming flights without fully updating the existing air services agreement. Indian authorities like Indigo are already being asked to prepare for China service.
Yeah, that detail is interesting.
That suggests they're prioritizing speed over maybe exhaustive renegotiation. What does this pragmatic approach mean for regional stability, for the broader Indo-Pacific?
Well, this pragmatic approach, where action is prioritized over immediate, potentially complex and protracted renegotiations of agreements, it speaks to a powerful underlying desire to normalize ties relatively quickly.
Okay.
The revival of direct connectivity in trade could have substantial positive economic and diplomatic implications. Economically, it can significantly reduce trade barriers, facilitate movement of goods, ease travel for business, and tourism, unlocking mutual benefits.
Then diplomatically.
Diplomatically, it sends a clear, unambiguous signal to the international community that two of Asia's largest powers are actively committed to reducing friction and fostering a more stable relationship.
And for the region.
For the broader Indo-Pacific, easing tensions between India and China could indeed foster greater stability. It might reduce the imperative for other powers to constantly mediate or engage in complex balancing acts within the region.
But the underlying issues remain. The border.
Oh, absolutely. Deep-seated challenges, particularly concerning the disputed border, certainly remain. But the current trajectory suggests a cautious yet determined shift towards more cooperative relations. And that's fundamentally beneficial for the entire region, potentially even the global geopolitical landscape.
So managing the relationship is better than letting it fester.
That seems to be the calculation. The deeper insight here is that while the core issues aren't fully resolved, both nations recognize that managing the relationship effectively is more beneficial than allowing it to deteriorate further. It hints at a future where, despite ongoing competition, there's also a pragmatic coexistence.
Okay, let's move now from diplomacy to ambition. Specifically, India is making a monumental leap in technology and resources.
Right, some big domestic initiatives here.
Our next headline is truly a potential game changer. India's Union Cabinet has approved 4 new semiconductor manufacturing projects. The combined investment is around 4,594 crore, and this adds to 6 existing facilities, bringing the total to 10.
Wow, 10 facilities. That's serious scale.
This feels like more than just an investment. It seems like a foundational shift.
I agree. What truly stands out to me here is the sheer scale and the profound ambition of this initiative. It covers everything from apparently raw material processing right through to advanced packaging.
So, a whole chain.
It seems they're aiming for that. This isn't merely about adding manufacturing capacity. It's about fundamentally reshaping India's industrial landscape and achieving critical strategic independence in a sector that is absolutely vital to modern economies and national security.
So, strategic independence is the goal.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this initiative is nothing short of a cornerstone for India's economic growth and its national security posture over the coming decade. And the overall investment commitment mentioned a staggering euro 1.6 lakh crore that underscores a very serious long-term strategic play. It signals India's commitment to becoming a global player in chip manufacturing, not just a consumer.
And the specifics of these new projects are pretty impressive, too. We're looking at a 3D glass semiconductor packaging unit in Odisha. It's spearheaded by a company called Heterogeneous Integration Packaging Solutions, PVT Ltd. And significantly, it's backed by global giants like Intel, Lockheed Martin, and Applied Materials. The source notes this marks Intel's first such direct involvement in India.
That is significant. Intel getting directly involved.
Then there's a silicon carbide plant in Bhubaneswar, run by 6M PVT Ltd, also supported by Lockheed Martin. This one will produce chips crucial for defense and aerospace.
Silicon carbide, that's high-performance stuff.
Exactly. Plus, a chip packaging plant in Andhra Pradesh that's a collaboration with South Korea's APAS-CT, and another semiconductor project up in Punjab by CDIL. These aren't minor players getting involved. These are global leaders investing directly.
Absolutely. The direct involvement of industry titans like Intel, Lockheed Martin, Applied Materials, and South Korea's APAS-CT is a powerful endorsement, isn't it?
It really is.
It signifies a significant vote of confidence, not just in India's burgeoning capabilities, but also in its evolving policy environment, which is clearly becoming more conducive to this kind of high-tech manufacturing.
It's not just about the money, then.
No, these partnerships aren't just about capital infusion. They are instrumental in bringing cutting-edge technology, invaluable expertise, and crucial access to global supply chain networks directly into India.
And that focus on silicon carbide, why is that important?
The particular focus on specialized materials, like silicon carbide, especially for defense and aerospace, reveals a distinct strategic path. Silicon carbide, or SiC, is a game changer because these chips can operate at much higher temperatures, voltages, and frequencies than traditional silicon, meaning you get smaller, lighter, and far more robust electronic systems. This is absolutely essential for cutting-edge military hardware, advanced radar systems, efficient electric vehicles, next-generation power electronics.
So foundational tech for key sectors.
Precisely. It highlights India's ambition to build foundational capabilities for strategic sectors, reducing its reliance on vulnerable foreign imports for critical technologies that underpin national security and advanced industrial growth.
And the Information Broadcasting Minister, Ashwini Vaishnaw, stated these plants will help increase locally made components in electronics from the current 20% up to 30%.
A significant jump.
India is also set to host Semicon India 2025, bringing together key players from Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, Korea. Furthermore, IIT Bhubaneswar has launched a dedicated 45 crore research unit specifically for silicon carbide semiconductors. And there's a concerted push for skilled workforce development.
Right. Building the ecosystem.
What does this comprehensive approach, investment, partnerships, R&D, skills mean for India's technological future and its aspiration to become a global manufacturing hub?
Well, India is clearly making a monumental, multi-pronged leap here in semiconductor production. This isn't just about making chips. It's about establishing deep-rooted strategic independence. The coordinated efforts spanning government policy, significant investment, robust private sector partnerships, critical academic research. It demonstrates a comprehensive national strategy that's truly impressive.
And that 30% local component goal.
By increasing the proportion of locally made components, India aims to significantly reduce its vulnerability to global supply chain disruptions, which, as we've seen recently, can have massive economic consequences.
Right.
Hosting Semicon India 2025 further solidifies the country's position as a significant emerging player on the global semiconductor stage. It fosters international collaboration, attracts further foreign investment.
And the skills and research part.
The strong emphasis on skilled workforce development, coupled with dedicated academic research in specialized areas like silicon carbide, indicates a very deliberate long-term vision. They want to build a sustainable, innovative, and self-reliant semiconductor ecosystem. This isn't merely about assembling parts. It's about becoming a global hub for design, R&D, and talent.
So, truly transformative.
It represents a truly transformative step for India's technological sovereignty and its broader economic ambitions. And honestly, the truly groundbreaking aspect isn't just the investment amount, but that specific focus on silicon carbide.
Why groundbreaking?
It reveals India isn't just trying to catch up in consumer electronics. It seems they're quietly aiming to become a critical, independent supplier for high-performance, resilient technologies, essentially building the digital backbone for its future defense and advanced industries, positioning itself as a secure alternative in a sometimes vulnerable global supply chain.
Fascinating. Now, complementing these high-tech aspirations, India is also, well, digging deep into its own earth, literally, to secure critical resources.
Right, the mining sector reforms.
Yes, the Lok Sabha has passed significant amendments to the Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act. They've even renamed and expanded the National Mineral Exploration Trust, the NMET, to the National Mineral Exploration and Development Trust. This sounds like it's about establishing profound resource independence.
It certainly looks that way. Stepping back to see the broader context, these amendments represent a pivotal moment in India's mining policy. They seem to be strategically marrying regulatory modernization with critical national interests.
How so? The name change and expansion.
The renaming and expansion of the NMET, now explicitly empowered to use funds for mineral exploration both within India, crucially including offshore areas, and even abroad, signals a profound strategic shift in India's approach to mineral security.
Okay.
Union Minister G. Kishan Reddy strongly emphasized India's heavy dependence on imports for critical minerals. Those minerals absolutely essential for renewable energy tech, electric mobility, advanced electronics, modern agriculture, defense.
Right, the building blocks of the future economy.
Exactly. This legislative change is explicitly designed to significantly boost domestic production and drastically reduce that import reliance, securing the supply chains for India's future economy and its green transition.
And the amendments come with some very specific, important provisions, like increasing lessee contributions to the trust from 2% to 3% of royalty payments.
More funding for exploration.
Allowing the inclusion of new minerals in existing leases.
Streamlining things.
And permitting a one-time extension of mining lease areas by up to 10% or even 30% for composite licenses to cover contiguous zones, especially for deep-seated minerals.
Making bigger, deeper projects more viable.
How are these reforms designed to attract that much-needed private investment? And how do they align with global sustainability standards, especially when you're talking about extracting those deep-seated, hard-to-reach minerals?
Well, these provisions seem meticulously crafted to make mineral extraction not just more economically viable, but also significantly more attractive for private investment, both domestic and international.
How does the increased contribution help?
Increasing contributions to the trust from 2% to 3% provides a larger, more robust capital pool specifically dedicated to exploration. Exploration is inherently risky, right? But it's absolutely vital for discovering new commercially viable reserves. So more funding helps de-risk it somewhat.
And allowing new minerals in existing leases.
That streamlines the regulatory process for miners. It reduces bureaucratic hurdles, increases efficiency, less red tape.
Makes sense. And the lease extensions.
Extending lease areas, particularly for those deep-seated minerals, makes large-scale, long-term capital investments far more appealing. It offers greater certainty and potential returns over a longer horizon. Extracting deep-seated minerals often requires advanced tech, substantial upfront capital.
So these incentives are crucial.
Absolutely crucial. The overarching goal isn't merely to extract more minerals, but seemingly to do so efficiently, responsibly, and in alignment with global best practices for sustainability. This directly supports India's ambitious clean energy and industrialization goals.
But legislation is one thing.
Precisely. This situation raises an important question. How swiftly can these legislative reforms genuinely translate into tangible, increased mineral production on the ground? Passing a law is the first step. Seeing it fully operationalized and yielding results in a complex, capital-intensive sector like mining, it's quite another challenge, but the aim is clear. future-proofing India's economy against supply chain shocks, empowering its green transition from domestic sources.
Okay, let's transition our focus now. We're moving into geopolitics, society, and culture, starting with a frankly troubling incident. Our next headline highlights growing safety concerns for the Indian community in Ireland. Irish President Michael D. Higgins has condemned recent despicable physical attacks on members of the Indian community there.
That's very concerning.
It is. It's described as a disturbing rise in incidents impacting a vibrant community. What does this signify, really, for the values of a nation when something like this happens?
Well, what truly stands out to me here is the powerful moral stance taken by President Higgins, and also the historical context he invoked in his condemnation. His denouncement of the attacks as despicable was unequivocal, wasn't it?
Very clear.
He specifically stressed that such a behavior, particularly when involving young people who might be manipulated into violence, doesn't just deeply harm the victims, but it also significantly diminishes the moral fabric of Irish society itself. That's a strong statement.
It is.
It feels like a clear and robust reaffirmation of Ireland's fundamental commitment to inclusivity and multiculturalism. And importantly, he drew parallels to Ireland's own rich history of migration.
Right, he mentioned immigration.
Yes, reminding his citizens of their own past as immigrants who frequently relied on the kindness of strangers in foreign lands. That appeal to deep-seated empathy is absolutely critical, I think, in actively addressing racially motivated violence and ensuring the protection of diverse populations within the nation.
He also took the opportunity, the source says, to praise the Indian community's immense contribution to Ireland, highlighting their work, culture, generosity.
Acknowledging their positive role.
And in a practical response to these safety concerns, the Ireland-India Council even made the difficult decision to postpone its annual India Day celebration in Dublin.
Ah, okay. That's a tangible impact.
It is.
Absolutely. The postponement of the India Day celebration really underscores the immediate seriousness of the situation on the ground. It shows the very real, practical impact these safety concerns are having on cultural events and community life. It signals that the community feels a tangible threat.
So Higgins' statement was more than just words.
I think so. It extends beyond mere condemnation. It serves as a powerful appeal to Ireland's core values, values deeply rooted in empathy, diversity, and its own historical experience with both emigration and immigration. And this situation, sadly, raises an important question for any society. How do nations effectively protect their diverse populations and consistently reinforce their core values when faced with such challenges?
It's not easy.
No. It necessitates more than simply condemning individual acts of violence. It demands actively fostering a genuinely inclusive environment and proactively addressing the underlying societal factors that can unfortunately lead to such targeted violence. It's a stark reminder that a nation's values are reflected not just in its rhetoric, but profoundly in its actions, and, most importantly, in the safety and well-being of all its residents, regardless of their background.
A powerful point. Now, from internal social dynamics in Ireland, we turn to a heated foreign policy debate within India itself.
Okay.
Our next headline covers Congress MP Priyanka Gandhi Vadra's sharp criticism of the Indian government's silence and perceived inaction regarding Israel's military operations in Palestine, particularly in Gaza. This feels like a fundamental debate over India's moral compass on the global stage.
It certainly taps into that deep question. Stepping back to see the broader context, this controversy profoundly underscores the complex and often agonizing challenge for any nation in balancing its strategic needs with its foundational principles and historical values.
How does her criticism frame it?
Priyanka Gandhi Vadra's criticism directly challenges the Modi administration's cautious diplomatic posture on this issue. She explicitly accused the center of failing to uphold India's long-standing moral responsibility and international humanitarian principles, specifically by not issuing a strong condemnation of the violence against Palestinians.
And this connects to India's history.
Yes, it reflects a deep-seated belief within her party, the Congress, and also significant segments of Indian civil society, that India possesses this powerful historical legacy of consistently supporting oppressed peoples and advocating for peaceful resolutions globally, a legacy rooted in its own colonial past and its leadership in the non-aligned movement.
She's strongly emphasized that historical legacy, arguing India shouldn't remain passive in the face of humanitarian crises.
Right.
And this is clearly part of the Congress Party's broader effort to challenge what they see as the Modi administration's foreign policy deviations from these historical positions. And it reflects a growing domestic concern over the ethical dimensions of India's international alignments.
Precisely. And this situation raises that important question again. Can a nation genuinely separate its economic and security interests from its stated humanitarian values?
The perennial dilemma.
It is. India has, in recent years, been significantly strengthening its strategic ties with Israel, particularly in defense and technology. That represents a clear strategic realignment in its foreign policy.
But at what cost, critics might ask.
Exactly. For many, this perceived shift comes at the cost of India's long-standing moral stance and solidarity with the Palestinian cause. The debate strikingly highlights the inherent tension between strategic interests, like maintaining robust relations with various global powers for economic and security benefits, and moral imperatives, which include demonstrating solidarity with humanitarian causes and upholding principles of justice.
So the government's caution is strategic maneuvering.
The government's cautious diplomatic posture is undoubtedly aimed at navigating an incredibly complex geopolitical landscape, trying to maintain a delicate balance between multiple relationships. However, this approach risks alienating significant domestic voices who feel India is abandoning its core principles and historical commitments.
So domestic politics meets foreign policy.
It vividly illustrates the dynamic interplay between domestic political discourse and complex foreign policy decisions, and how deeply these ethical considerations resonate within the country's public consciousness.
Okay, let's talk about something with very direct, immediate impact on thousands of individuals. U.S. visa policy changes.
Yes, this will affect many.
Our next headline announces that the U.S. Department of State is going to discontinue the interview waiver program. You probably know it as the Dropbox facility for most non-immigrant visa categories. Think H-1B, L-1, F-1, starting September 2nd.
That's a big change.
It is. A policy shift with huge real-world implications. What does this all mean for global talent flow, particularly between India and the U.S.?
Well, what truly stands out to me here is the profound ripple effect such policy changes can have on bilateral relations, especially in that crucial tech sector.
How so?
The discontinuation of the Dropbox facility means that a mandatory in-person interview at a U.S. embassy or consulate will now be required for the vast majority of these non-immigrant visa categories. This is a monumental change, particularly impactful for Indian tech professionals who, as you know, represent by far the largest share of H-1B visa holders globally.
So, major hurdles for tech workers.
Absolutely. Visa experts and consultants are already issuing stark warnings about significantly longer wait times for appointments, potential travel delays that could disrupt personal and professional lives, and even jeopardize work authorization for those who need to return to the U.S. promptly after, say, a visit home. It adds a substantial layer of complexity and uncertainty.
So this is far more than just an inconvenience. It could seriously disrupt careers, business operations, maybe even academic pursuits for students on F-1 visas.
It could, yes. The Dropbox facility previously streamlined the process significantly. It reduced the administrative burden for countless applicants and, frankly, for the consular offices themselves. Now, only a few very specific categories, primarily diplomatic or official visas or certain renewals of B1, B2 visas within 12 months of expiration, will remain eligible for waivers.
So what's the rationale behind this tightening?
Well, this policy shift is a clear reflection of a broader tightening of U.S. immigration procedures. The stated aim is generally enhancing national security and improving oversight of who enters the country.
But are there potential downsides?
Many critics argue, and it's a valid point to consider, that while attempting to enhance security, this move could inadvertently curb the very innovation and critical collaboration that has flourished between the U.S. and countries like India. It creates significant uncertainty. It introduces a far more arduous and time-consuming process for thousands of skilled professionals, researchers, students who contribute immensely to the U.S. economy, its technological advancement, its academic landscape. The fact that visa consultants are already advising extensive early planning is a strong indicator of the anticipated bottlenecks and logistical challenges.
So a real human impact.
A direct and tangible human impact on thousands of individuals. And it could subtly but significantly strain those robust U.S.-India tech and academic ties that have developed over decades. It might even influence where global talent chooses to reside, study, and innovate in the future.
A lot to watch there. Now, from the flow of talent to the powerful flow of national sentiment, our next headline brings us to that vibrant yet often politically charged intersection of sports and geopolitics.
Cricket. Always emotional.
Indeed. Former Indian cricketer Harbhajan Singh has publicly called for India to boycott its upcoming Asia Cup match against Pakistan. He's directly citing national sentiment and the recent Pahalgam terror attack as justification. This is where the playing field truly becomes a political battleground, isn't it?
It really is.
What does this reveal about this spirit of sportsmanship when it confronts this kind of nationalistic fervor?
Well, what truly stands out here is how profoundly national sentiment can intertwine with cultural events as unifying and widely followed as cricket. Harbhajan Singh's call for a boycott and his very powerful quote, "Kun arpani ek saath nahi be sakte."
Blood and water cannot flow together.
Exactly. It captures the deeply emotional and nationalistic sentiment prevalent for many in India following acts of terrorism. He's essentially arguing that the profound sacrifices made by soldiers on the border should unequivocally take precedence over sporting ties.
So skipping a match is a small sacrifice in comparison.
That's his argument, that skipping a match is a comparatively small sacrifice when weighed against the tragic loss of lives. This sentiment is rooted in a fervent nation comes first ideology that almost invariably emerges and gains significant traction during periods of heightened geopolitical tension or national security concerns. It's a powerful appeal to a sense of national honor and solidarity.
And he's not alone in this kind of stance, is he? The source mentions his past actions.
Right. Harbhajan himself was part of the India champions team that notably refused to play Pakistan champions during the World Championship of Legends. That was seen as a symbolic gesture, and it garnered support from other prominent Indian cricketing figures like Shikhar Dhawan, Yuvraj Singh, Irfan Pathan, Suresh Raina, Yusuf Pathan.
And now he's urging the current team to do the same.
Yes, he's actively urging the current Indian team, captained by Surya Kumar Yadav, to adopt a similar principled stance. He even criticized the media, the source says, for giving undue importance to Pakistan in this context.
So stepping back, what does this tell us about sports and politics?
Stepping back, this situation vividly highlights the enduring and often uncomfortable challenge of trying to separate deep-seated political conflicts from every aspect of bilateral engagement, even cultural and sporting ones.
Athletes feel the pressure.
For many public figures and athletes, their influential platforms naturally become a prominent space for expressing and galvanizing nationalistic fervor. This places immense pressure on the current Indian team and the governing sports bodies like the BCCI to meticulously navigate a complex web of public opinion, sensitive political implications, and critical international sporting obligations.
So the spirit of sportsmanship gets complicated.
While the traditional spirit of sportsmanship fundamentally advocates for fair play, unity, competition on merit, in highly charged geopolitical environments like India-Pakistan relations, these lines inevitably blur. Sports, in such contexts, can transform into a powerful symbolic battleground, reflecting deeper national grievances and aspirations.
And the Asia Cup is coming up soon.
Yes. Scheduled to commence September 9th in the UAE. India is grouped with Pakistan, Oman, and the host UAE. So this match, if it proceeds, now faces this potent added layer of political tension. It ensures it will be much more than just a game of cricket. It will be a focal point of national pride and intense political discourse.
Definitely one to watch. Okay, let's pivot one last time to India's truly ambitious emerging frontiers, specifically in space.
Right, looking upwards.
Our next headline reveals that India is set to launch its first indigenous commercial Earth observation, or EO, satellite constellation, and it's through an innovative public-private partnership. This feels like a massive step, India reaching for the stars, but with a very practical, Earth-focused mission.
It really is significant.
What does this momentous development mean for India's data sovereignty and its economic growth?
Well, what truly stands out to me here is the ingenious dual benefit this initiative promises. On one hand, it will significantly bolster national security and enhance India's data independence, having its own eyes in the sky, essentially. But simultaneously, it unlocks massive commercial potential in the burgeoning global space economy. This Earth Observation Public-Private Partnership, the EOPPP, is spearheaded by an impressive consortium of private Indian space companies: Pixel Space India, PeerSize Space, Sature Analytics India, and Dhruva Space.
And announced by Unspace.
Yes, announced by InSpace, India's Space Promotion and Authorization Agency. This marks a monumental milestone for India's private space sector. It represents a concerted effort to reduce the nation's reliance on foreign satellite data and thus bolster its national data sovereignty, critical in our data-driven world. It firmly positions India as a significant, formidable player in the global space economy.
And these satellites, they're not just generic imagers, right? The applications sound incredibly diverse and impactful.
Absolutely. We're talking about precision climate monitoring, rapid disaster management, advanced agriculture planning, comprehensive marine surveillance, crucial infrastructure development, meticulous urban planning, and of course, critical national security intelligence.
A wide range.
A very wide range. They'll be deployed in phases over 4 years, and in space highlighted that this will be among the world's most advanced EO systems, entirely designed, developed, and operated by Indian talent.
And a key feature is the SAR technology, synthetic aperture radar.
Yes, the inclusion of SAR technology is absolutely crucial and makes these satellites particularly advanced. Unlike traditional optical sensors, SAR can see through clouds, smoke, and operate effectively at night.
All-weather, day-night capability.
Exactly, providing continuous high-resolution imaging regardless of weather conditions or time of day. This capability is invaluable for applications needing consistent monitoring, tracking climate change, assessing real-time disaster zones, monitoring illicit maritime activities, providing crucial intelligence for defense.
And the public-private model is key here.
It seems like a strategic masterstroke. The government provides essential strategic direction, technical expertise, policy support. Meanwhile, the private consortium handles the capital-intensive aspects, manufacturing, conducting launches from Indian soil, establishing ground infrastructure, and crucially, managing the commercial data services derived from the satellites.
So, leveraging private sector dynamism.
Precisely. Paul Magwinka, the on-space chairperson, emphasized this initiative as a clear demonstration of India's burgeoning capability to lead large-scale, technologically advanced space missions independently. And this project perfectly aligns with India's ambitious goal to expand its space economy from about $8.4 billion in 2022 to a staggering $44 billion by 2033.
Big growth target.
Huge. And the fact that 3 additional consortiums have already been shortlisted for future EO projects further signals sustained momentum and robust confidence in this private space collaboration model. It truly represents a strategic leap, seamlessly combining national interest with global commercial competitiveness. This isn't just about launching satellites, it's about positioning India as a global leader in data-driven decision-making and space-based services.
Okay, finally, let's turn our attention to the vibrant cultural pulse of India. Because beyond the complexities of politics and the breakthroughs in technology, the power of entertainment remains immense, doesn't it? Capable of captivating millions.
Oh, absolutely. Cultural power is significant.
Our last headline focuses on Bollywood. Superstar Rajinikanth's upcoming film Coolie, directed by the hitmaker Lokesh Kanagaraj, is apparently poised for a truly record-breaking box office debut. It's already garnered an incredible 20 crore just in advance bookings.
20 crore already. Wow.
It truly demonstrates the unparalleled power of entertainment, especially star power, in India.
It really does. What truly stands out here isn't just the sheer financial figures, impressive as they are, but the immense anticipation and the profound cultural impact a single film, particularly one starring a phenomenon like Rajinikanth, can command.
He's a unique force.
Absolutely. Stepping back to see the broader context, this vividly underscores that unique blend of unparalleled star power, fervent fan devotion, and shrewd strategic marketing that consistently propels Indian cinema to unparalleled heights, both domestically and globally. Rajinikanth's enduring dominance is simply undeniable. The film, strategically set for a worldwide release on August 14th, just ahead of India's Independence Day,
Perfect timing.
is generating an almost unprecedented level of buzz and excitement across the nation.
From what a star-studded cast this film boasts. Rajinikanth is starring alongside other industry stalwarts like Nagarjuna, Amir Khan, Shruti Hassan, Subin Shahir, and Satyaraj.
It's a huge ensemble, pan-Indian appeal.
Definitely. Industry analysts are already predicting it might even outperform War II, another major action film starring Hrithik Roshan and Junior NTR, which is coincidentally releasing the same weekend. That's bold.
High expectations, then.
The trailer apparently showcases Rajinikanth in a truly fierce avatar, even if the precise plot remains tightly under wraps. And those rumors about it connecting to Lokesh Kanagaraj's cinematic universe, the LCU, the filmmakers are denying it.
Keeping some mystery alive.
Right.
Well, that star-studded ensemble cast is undoubtedly a colossal draw, isn't it? Ensuring the film appeals to a broad audience spanning various regional film industries across India.
And the timing.
The strategic timing of its release, deliberately chosen just before the Independence Day holiday weekend, is a very clever commercial maneuver. designed to capitalize on extended holidays, maybe a wave of patriotic fervor that often translates into heightened cinema attendance.
And it's reportedly a huge budget film.
Yes, a reported budget of 400 crore. That ranks coolly among the most expensive Indian films ever produced. It signals its grand scale and ambition.
And ticket prices are high.
Apparently ranging from 500 up to a premium Euro 2000 in major cities like Bengaluru and Chennai. That reflects the perceived value and exclusivity.
But people are still buying.
Despite the premium pricing, day one shows are rapidly selling out. Nearly 9 lakh tickets already pre-booked within India alone, the source says, and global advance bookings have remarkably surpassed 50 crore.
Incredible numbers.
Plus, the captivating music by the acclaimed Anirudh Ravichandar further amplifies its commercial appeal, builds that pre-release excitement.
So that forecast of a 100 crore opening day, it's possible.
It's a powerful testament to Rajinikanth's unparalleled, almost cult-like fan base and the immense, well-oiled machinery that drives Indian cinema. It profoundly illustrates how deeply embedded cinema is within the cultural fabric of India. It often acts as a powerful unifier and an enduring source of immense national pride and mass entertainment. This isn't just about a film. It's shaping up to be a full-blown cultural event.
Wow. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, it's certainly clear that India is a nation navigating a world of, well, immense opportunity, but also significant challenge, constantly evolving on so many fronts.
Absolutely. A dynamic picture.
The sheer breadth of these developments we've unpacked today, from those intricate trade impasses to groundbreaking space missions, from tough human rights debates to the captivating power of Bollywood, it profoundly reminds us just how interconnected our world truly is, doesn't it?
Indeed. And this journey through today's headlines, I think it raises an important question for all of us listening. In an era characterized by such rapid information flow, increasingly complex geopolitical shifts, how do we critically assess diverse sources? How do we identify the underlying forces that are truly shaping a nation's trajectory?
That's the challenge.
It is. Consider how each of these individual headlines we've discussed today, the shifts in economic diplomacy, the complexities around human rights, that cautious rapprochement with China, the ambitious tech pursuits, the strategic quest for resource security, even the unifying force of cultural phenomena like Cooley, each contributes to a larger dynamic narrative, and it's a narrative that is still very much being written.
So understanding the connections is key.
Exactly. To be truly well-informed, I think, is to understand these intricate, interconnected threads and recognize that the story of India's place on the global stage is an ongoing, utterly fascinating evolution. Keep watching.